This is Gavin Lynn, GL1. I had called in January, and it was March. And then they called me. So. But it never materialized. 323-684-4361. And I need to purchase 2 hearing aids. Thank you. Cheryl's here.
How are you? Yeah, I was reading. Oh, we have somebody here. You're probably better off there or there. Because the computer will block the actual screen. Okay.
Fine, I thought mine was green.
No, just the,
No, I'm looking at that.
just the jacket.
Let's see.
So, you know, it's just every week. Just so I was working on a film set last week. Well, nothing's good. Babysitting picture.
I thought about you the other day, because remember when I was blowing up your phone about a year ago?
Yeah.
He's building 4 units with 2 ADUs behind it. It's like, oh,
Well, how's it?
I know.
You know, I mean,
Basically, state law is saying you can do whatever you want,
well,
you know,
I
because we need housekeeping.
I personally referred quite often in the last year or two to the Serenity.
I did. I had to give it up because, you know, I realized number one, there's nothing you can do about it. So get over it, let it go. I know, I'm familiar with it, but it's like, you know what? Things as we knew them are no longer like that. Even though the law may say this, there's a but. You know, so therefore just, you know, and since most of my neighbors say, so what do they say? Nobody's willing to pick up the phone. They,
Oh, do it themselves.
you know, I told them, you can't handle it on your own.
Right.
Don't bombard me, because that means I've got to tell 20 people the same thing.
So, you know, UNNC just had an election, very low turnout.
I didn't even realize there was an election.
Well, it wasn't in person, it was all, you
Oh.
had, one had to apply just to get a ballot, you had to apply to the clerk, send your ballot, and then you received it, and then you have to send it back. So it's so many steps.
Yeah. I you know, I'm just, COVID has made so many things lazy.
Right.
Even my minister said everything now is online. You're looking at the church service, and then you say, let me go get something to eat in the kitchen, and then they never come back. He said it's like everything is like, you know.
That just doesn't seem.
I know, but that's
especially since you could have planned, whoever you are could plan ahead and have your food with you.
He calls it pillow worship. Because they start out fine, and then whether the phone rings or something, and they just drift off. He said COVID made everything dispensable, you know, later, mañana. So
right. Okay, well, it is 7:01.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
So I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Oh, and good, Steve has arrived just in time.
Oh. Hi, Mika. Hello. I'm on the Zoom. Yeah, you know the UNNC meeting just now starting?
Okay, Young, we can hear you talking to Mika.
Did you see my avocado? Huh? Yeah.
Oh, that didn't work. Oh. Sorry, Steve.
Okay.
It's okay. So anyway, I just called the meeting to order just as you were logging in. This is the February, no, it isn't, the April 16th meeting of United Neighborhoods. Neighborhood Council's Planning and Zoning Committee. My name is Laura Myers. Why don't we all of us introduce ourselves? So I'm Laura Myers. I live in Angeles Vista. And I am vice president and co-chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee for UNNC. And
I'm Cheryl Johnson, and I live in Jefferson Park.
okay, Steve.
I'm Steve Peckman. I'm a stakeholder. I live in Jefferson Park.
Yeah.
Hi, I live outside your area, Jefferson and Expedition, Young Summers. I'm here to learn something about how to stop this development.
Yeah, well,
door.
and we're on introductions.
Hi, I'm Colleen. I live in Jefferson Park.
Thank you. And so tonight I'm going to share the agenda. Tonight's meeting is one with perhaps more just discussion than usual. But as you can see on the agenda, we just did the welcome, the call to order. We introduced ourselves, and we're all veterans of this committee, but I'll just remind everyone who might be watching this later or watching on YouTube, that UNNC does have a series of standing committees. We appoint the chairs, co-chairs, but otherwise anyone who participates in a committee meeting on the night of or day, whatever the committee meeting is, if they are a stakeholder, they may participate fully, make motions, and vote. So what is a stakeholder? The city council defines this as someone who lives, works, attends school, is a parent of someone who attends school, worships, owns a business, and or participates in a community organization, which itself has a brick and mortar address of some sort or another within the boundaries of the neighborhood council. So tonight, I don't think we have actual voting probably, but stakeholders may vote. Okay, so also on the agenda, general public comments. That would be on items which are not on tonight's agenda. Number 3 is a review of some recent submissions of proposed projects that are within and adjacent to, and I mean really adjacent to UNNC boundaries. So the 3 that I actually brought with me tonight are a medical building at 2617 Crenshaw. These are all proposed. An 8-story, 222 unit mixed use building at 4201 West Pico, which is the intersection of Pico and Crenshaw, and a it's not 60 stories, it's a 6-story 69 unit 100% affordable housing project. Nobody had brought that to my attention before this SAC when I saw it myself, at 2150 West Venice Boulevard, which is at Harvard, in Harvard Heights. And we're just going to look at, the pretty pictures or not pretty pictures in the applications. And then we'll have a little update about the letters that we already discussed last time, to be approved by our UNNC's executive committee. And then, if any, follow up to previous cases, ENS and full business. So I'm going to stop the share. We have been joined by Michael. Michael, just, what's the way to remember how to pronounce your name? Kimbrough, right? I know you're there.
It's muted.
He is muted.
It is Kim Bro with a long O. Just think of a black man that's a bro.
Right. That's what I thought. So hi, Michael, and Donna Jones is now here as well, if you want to introduce yourself. Michael's lives in the Avenues, and Donna, hello.
Muted.
I know. Here she
All right,
comes.
sorry. Hi, everyone. Sorry. Donna Jones, West Adams Avenue.
Okay, we've already gone through the agenda, so we're just about to go to general public comment on items not on tonight's agenda, and these are not for discussion, these are just announcements, public comments, if anyone. Donna.
Hi, West Adams Avenues is hosting its annual spring cleanup the first weekend of May, which means Friday the 2nd, I think. The 3rd is Saturday. The dumpsters will be here from Friday until Monday, Cinco de Mayo. You're welcome to bring items that are allowed within, I don't have a list now, but definitely no tires or paint, things like that. But you're welcome to join us and do a cleanup. We'll have 4 dumpsters, 2500 block of 7th Avenue, just north of Adams. And we will have flyers posted everywhere starting next week.
Okay. Let me let someone in. Another announcement, UNNC is participating with several other neighborhood councils in a firefighters appreciation dinner for Battalion 11, which is lots of fire stations, including Fire Station 26 on Western Avenue. The appreciation for all of their efforts during the wildfires. And this is next Monday. Well, the appreciation dinner is 3 nights in a row because there's 3 shifts for the firefighters. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. UNNC's participating night is Monday. And it's at basically at the community center at St. Sophia's Church, but not in the church, but in the community building. We'll send out an e-blast. The public's invited, but we want the firefighters to eat first, of course. But there's probably gonna be plenty of food, Greek food, Dino's Cuban chicken food. We're bringing caloric pasta. So we're hoping to feed a lot of firefighters. So we're doing that.
So you'll send the address?
Correct.
I
It's a
think
corner of Normandy and Pico. And then there is a Ciclavia Mini, which is not as big as the Ciclavia that was on Jefferson and Jefferson Park, but in May, and again, we're going to send this out. But a Ciclavia Mini on Pico from Normandy to Hoover on a mid-May Sunday. So we'll probably be participating in that as well. So this is Ciclavia is, they close the streets and you can walk, bike, skateboard, roller skate, etc. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, well, item 3 is the review of recent submissions of proposed projects within and adjacent to UNNC boundaries. So I'm gonna just start sharing the screen. I have to give me a moment. Let's do this. Okay, so this is the one. I'm not doing this in any particular order, just the order I have it on the computer. So can you guys in the Zoom room, can you see this?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is the proposed project that's 6 stories, not 60, at 2150 West Venice Boulevard. It's described as 69 units and also 100% affordable. This has been presented to the HPOZ, Harvard Heights HPOZ, and in a consultation last December, and the board approved bringing it for a final, for a real hearing. And it was then submitted to the city planning a week and a half ago. And then 4 days later, they closed it administratively because the submission may not have been complete, or they may be changing land use reps. But it's definitely a check with the HPOZ planner. It's definitely going forward pretty much like this. That doesn't, so it's, well, now it says, that one says 73. So this might be the problem that the submission didn't match the HPOZ submission. So this says 73 units. Okay, what just happened? I don't know what just happened.
So Laura, while you're working on
I
that,
think
can I ask a question?
Yeah, because I just screwed up something anyway.
Okay.
Please.
So I'm assuming this went to the HPOZ board because of the revision to ED1, is that correct?
Probably.
Okay, and were there
Yeah, I mean, it's not being described as ED1. This is being described as 100% affordable, but not as ED1.
Well, that typically falls under ED1, the fact that they don't have any parking and other things. So my question is,
Steve, I'm sorry, but in this, remember there's a CPIO as well on Venice Boulevard. And our CPIO for South LA also gives a lot of perks for 100% affordable.
right, I get that, but my question is more about the board.
Okay.
So did planning restrict what the board could opine on regarding this project?
I don't know. And what's interesting is that the planner, Eric Van Breen, seems to remember that I attended that meeting, and I seem to not remember attending the meeting. And I think I would remember if I had, because the architect is John Arnold.
Yeah, it looks like a John Arnold project.
And I feel like if I had been in the same room as John, I'd remember, since we're, friends.
Yeah.
Coaches.
So I'm kind of surprised that the HPOZ board would approve, unless they were not allowed to provide opinion on certain things, that they would move forward to a hearing on a project that's 6 stories in a neighborhood that's all 2 stories.
Yeah.
And that the actual design of the building has no relationship to anything in the community.
Okay, so I think the CPIO for 100% affordable is what gives them the 6 stories, regardless of what the HPOZ would say.
Mm-hmm.
And since this is on a almost vacant lot, not quite, and that to me is the biggest issue, actually, because there's a nice kind of deco garagey building toward the back, on the south corner of on the Harvard side. This is a long east-west parcel. This is not the first project proposed for that parcel. So from memory, there was some project that had 120 feet of blank wall because it was being built out as more like an oasis, turning its back on the community and building inside a wall. And they didn't like that one at all. And then it was going to be a 7-Eleven drive-through-ish kind of thing, and they didn't like that one at all. So it may be that the board and community members who go to those meetings were so worn down by pretty awful proposals that now they have something halfway decent. They're like happy for all.
I guess it would be a matter of opinion if it's halfway decent, but it would be edifying to those of us who live in other HPOZs to have some background as to the process and whether planning exerted restrictions on the board and what it could consider.
Right. And I know I did not go to that meeting, just for clarity, because again, I'd remember if I had.
I'm just kind of shocked that this building, I mean, it's a John Arnold building, it looks like one, that it has so little relationship to the historic architecture of the community, and it's so out of scale with the community, even though it's on a major thoroughfare. And it doesn't even step down into the community.
Right. Right. Okay, I can't answer these questions. This meeting is to sort of preview stuff that might be coming to us, not to weigh in. I mean, so like I said, I checked with the planner for the HPOZ, and he implied that, you know, in other words, the way it works at an HPOZ, when you have a consultation meeting, you just give your input, right? If you're a board member, and then at the end of the meeting, the board will say either you need to come back for another consultation, or they'll say this, you know, if you do this, this, and this, you'll be ready to submit. So this presentation I'm showing you is from December. And it may have been altered, but what's going on the other piece of the planning department website, the case summaries section, which normally when a project is submitted, they upload, you know, the material. The staff did not upload. So I'm using the December presentation materials.
So in a nutshell, what we're seeing may or may not be what's going to go to the hearing.
It's not going to be dramatically different, but it might be somewhat different. But that would be like materials, I think, not design. So it's also a modular design, according to, you know, as we go through this presentation.
What does that mean, modular design?
I think it means that these components get delivered already built and get stacked up, so it moves fast.
The components of the total structure.
Correct.
Okay. So it's not modular in terms of how the units are appropriated and whether they could be 1 or 2 bedroom or singles, that they're not modular internal walls.
I don't know. See how on the slide now it says a proposed modular residential building, right?
Yeah, but I don't know what that means.
I understand. I mean, so we have some real questions.
Do we have anything else that was built that way?
We don't have them in our neighborhood, but it's the kind of the trend for affordable housing, a trend for affordable housing to do modular housing. Yes.
You mentioned that there's a building on site. Do you know much about that?
Can you see it now? I might be able to.
The one on the left?
Top left.
And I assume that it's proposed for demolition.
It would have to be.
So I just Googled modular residential buildings, and you're right, Laura. It says constructed off-site in a factory, then transported and assembled on the final location.
Right. So this building on the left, if you are looking at the screen, there's on the left side of the big site. So you see all these trucks and vans and stuff parked there. So there's this. Well, it's really a garage building. It's a 2-story. The first floor is kind of open and you know, kind of garagey like. I mean, I've been there, and the part above is it was office.
Oh,
I mean,
Is it a contributor or a non-contributor?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I think it was a non-contributor, but it shouldn't make a full difference because the HPOC ordinance does say that you need to go through a particular process for demolition and doesn't differentiate. Planning department of late is not requiring very many applicants to go through the process to separately apply for demolitions, which there's 1 or 2 appeal cases right now going on about that too. So I don't know the answer. But I have here, I'm going to stop the share, but I have a way to maybe answer it because we don't have the application. Yeah. So okay, these are all the questions that I'm going to make sure we get that when it goes back up into the planning department website. And we invite the land use rep here that will know to ask. So are there any other questions about that project that I can remember to ask? I'm going to write
I just have one other question, which
Sure.
is how does the modular aspect of this construction address earthquake safety?
Who was that laughing, Donna?
That was my.
Yes, I agree with what John, I'm sorry, what Steve is saying, because it sounds like a puzzle that has just come all apart.
Laura. Laura,
8?
yeah, I'm not certain, this is Michael Kimbrough. I'm not certain, but if it's been through building and safety and it's modular construction, it's reasonable that they've tested that for the earthquake requirements. A la the old LARR number system, I'm not sure it's still in place for everything.
Yeah, I mean,
It's worth looking at, but it does not appear to be a high priority item in my eye. I think it would have passed muster for that through structural.
okay, so 4 questions I have are, I mean, we can ask it, and this is not necessarily the order we heard it, but how does the modular aspect of the construction address earthquake safety or seismic safety? The height, how did we get to 6 stories in an HPOZ? Is the building that's there now a contributor? And how does this design relate to the HPOZ preservation plan? You know, and I'm not going to totally try to answer that, but unlike Jefferson Park or say University Park HPOZ, the commercial corridors in the 6, I'll remind some of you or tell you for the first time, the 8 HPOZs spent years writing their own preservation plans, and it just took too long. So then the city created a template and more or less forced 16 HPOZs to use the template and just pick from a pre-made menu of things for their plans. And then the Jefferson Park HPOZ was the next HPOZ after that. So 8 plus 16, 24. So you were preservation plan number 25 or 26. And so Jefferson Park, we were able to move beyond the pure template and customize it a lot more. So in Jefferson Park, well, you're saying a little more, but a lot more than those 16s and a lot less than Angelino Heights or University Park and the other 6, whoever they are. So you have a whole chapter on the commercial infill, and it was kind of modeled after a combination of the University Park, but also the Colorado Boulevard specific plan. I mean, there was some input, and Harvard Heights may not have quite that level of the infill for commercial. I don't really know. Nor does UNNC get to weigh in very much on that, because how we deal with projects that are also in HPOZs is we weigh in on the other aspects, not so much what the board has already decided.
Right, but if the HPOZ board actually pushed for differences both in scale and in design, that's something that the UNNC could support.
Correct, and we would want to know
Right.
about. Right, so and I don't know, so I will inquire, figure out who to inquire of, but I will inquire and try and get this project for real to us. So another project which, speaking of Harvard Heights HPOZ, and I don't have any graphics for it, but they did have their meeting / hearing on 1828 Western last week. And I was unable to go. That's the big 8-story building next to the Ross Plaza, and which will take out there's Ross Plaza's the tall building, but the whole complex was 3 buildings. One's already gone. where the car wash is on Western. And then behind the car wash is the original doctor's medical offices building. And the whole complex was the first Black doctor-owned medical complex west of the Mississippi. So as this project has kind of gone on for a couple of years, there's been a huge pushback and a requirement that they do a historic assessment, blah, 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 on the rear building. And it sounds like what the board decided and recommended and the developer agreed to is not to save the building, which I'm disappointed in, but to do much more than just a simple plaque to memorialize the whole complex and its history. So I'm not quite clear what that means. What apparently it does not mean from the HPOZ perspective is any sort of photos and stuff in a lobby, because they only have control on the outside of the building. But this is where I think a UNNC could weigh in, because because they apparently picked a corner. I'm not really sure, I wasn't there. And this is a recommendation to the director of planning. But so I'm gonna ask the land use consultant, and remember, we've seen that project here too. So I'm gonna ask the consultant to bring it back here so we can also have a further discussion and maybe come up with a really nice way to, you know, and obviously the major building still stands, but I think it's time for it to get designated, so we'll do this again. Yeah.
So that's a good idea. And it seems that this committee has a model, which is the Japanese American movie theater or whatever that was, that we spent many, many weeks discussing.
Exactly.
And how to commemorate the historic importance of that to the community.
Right. So what the planner today basically said is that because the HPOZ has no jurisdiction on the inside, they could not even discuss maybe a lobby kind of thing because it's inside. I don't buy it. They could have discussed it. They just couldn't have voted about it. But
this would be on the new building.
On the new building, where the new building might, through photos and history
mitigation.
Yeah. Make it a, what do they call that? When you have a site that history is still along. There's a word, I've lost it.
Ask him.
No. I should know what it is. People earn a living doing this kind of thing.
Question for you.
Yes.
Is that the same situation as the theater on Crenshaw next to Burger King?
That's what Steve was referencing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they have, yes, so the final deal was in the development of the Kokosai Theater, which was actually built originally as an African-American performance space.
Okay.
And then became the Japanese theater. But using the lobby and the marquee and all of that was going to be restored, but we wanted to use the glass in where you used to have the movie posters. Is in theory, if this all gets done, we'll now have photographs of the historical photographs telling the story of the building. And that will be outside, not inside, because it's a theater, is under the marquee, so it's protected.
Right.
So this won't have that design. Okay. Next building. I'm gonna keep moving on. So this one is at 2617 Crenshaw. And I'm just gonna start with the elevations, and then I'm gonna try and pull up the 45 megabyte real, this is much larger file. But this is just south of Adams where the barbecue place is currently, and it's gonna be called Saban Kids. It's a medical building.
Which side of the street?
West, so it's not in UNC, it's across the street.
Several barbecue places.
Oh, just
Is
south
this
of Adams.
Phipps Barbecue? Phillips?
Yes, will be no more.
It's closed.
Is no more.
Is already no more, but it's not like on hiatus. It will be no more.
So
I'm not sure why all of this is in the way, but
it's gonna be a what now?
it's a two-story medical building.
Oh.
The community clinic for
So they must be
kids.
taking also the pawn shop, right? Because that's a very small.
Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna open up a file. Let me look.
Yeah, business is like this, and it's long. Okay.
So give me a moment, you guys. Be patient here. Stop the share, and now I'm gonna share this. So here's the complete plans. Can you guys see all this?
Now.
Now, so it looks like it's just taking the Phillips and not pawn shop. That the
That's
Phillips,
pawn shop is the apartment building.
yeah, but the Phillips lot may be bigger than you think,
Well, it might be deeper.
deeper than you think.
It's not bigger.
We flip flop it. Pick the pawn shop and keep it.
You know,
Wow,
they all retired. That's the problem.
did they?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the site photos. I'm just gonna see if I can move this stuff all the way over there. Maybe that'll be easier.
Yeah, this is across the street from the hardware store in
Yes.
Chef Maryland.
Correct. And because she's losing her place too.
She's
So
already,
Maryland.
FNT, she's down. King,
She is?
Oh.
she's been there, yeah. But it's a restaurant.
Okay, so anyway, this is, I just wanted to bring this to everybody just so you see what's happening in the hood. This is in the West Adams Neighborhood Council technically, so we can weigh in if we wanted to, but they're gonna listen to the other.
We want to.
Well, I am having a little trouble on this scroll to, you know, you think when you push the arrow, it would just scroll it slowly, but you'd be wrong. So I'm trying.
Do we have any idea if this clinic is affiliated with USC or UCLA?
We don't, but we could know. I can look and see what the application says.
They have multiple sites.
Sabanda.
Yes, they do. But typically the physicians have appointments at one of the medical schools.
I'm not seeing a real
Medicaid.
narrative.
They see patients on a sliding fee scale, they accept Medicaid,
Yeah, I don't know because this is an LLP. Yeah, this is an LLP who's building a, you know,
Okay.
LLC, LP, whatever, a limited partnership that's
Mhm.
building it, so it's not gonna, we're not gonna know. Sorry about that. So, but in any case, I just wanted to bring it to our attention. If it's something we really need to see, I can bring in, call the land use rep and have him come. You just let me know. I mean, it's a small two-story building. I mean, my bigger concern, frankly, that they're going to the trouble of building this on a site that Metro has identified as potentially the one they're gonna eminent domain,
To do what?
northern extension of the K line.
Well, Saban has enough money to hire people to figure that out.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
they identified either the east side or the west side of
Yeah.
Crenshaw from Adams south to 27th.
I just think it's a good idea to have a community clinic where you don't have to go to the next door pawn shop in order to get care.
Pawn shops.
No, pawn shop is
Okay.
right next door.
I'm kidding.
No,
Okay.
I'm saying that you don't have to go pawn stuff in order to get medical care would be a good thing.
But on the
Yeah.
other hand,
I know
if
it's
you
not
did
a-
have to pawn something, you're right next door.
You said, hold that thought.
Yeah, I know it's not really our jurisdiction on this committee necessarily, but it is a tremendous community benefit. to
Yes.
have
Yes,
that.
absolutely, absolutely. And I keeping it as a two-story building, I think is very nice for the community.
Sure. Okay. Well, and then this is this next one that I wanted to bring. Again, it's not within, technically, it's not within our boundaries. This is at 4201 Pico Boulevard. So it is the northwest corner of Pico and Crenshaw. So we end at the southeast corner where the public storage, but the former Beacons building is.
Right, so it's kitty corner.
It's kitty corner, and that
There's a-
would be the Olympic Park Neighborhood Council.
So
There's,
is that
the-
across the street from the
for-
chicken place? Gus's Chicken?
No, it's across, Gus's Chicken stays. It's across from Gus's Chicken. It's the northwest
Right.
corner. So across from kitty corner from public storage, directly west of Gus's Chicken, directly north
Of
of
the
the
new
new
affordable
affordable
housing.
housing complex.
on that very small vacant
Teeny,
since
Yeah.
it's 1979.
the former Christmas tree sales lot.
Yeah, I think there was if I recall correctly, there was a gas station there. This is before my time.
Right.
This is before 1979. It was vacant since at least 1979.
Right,
Which time is this?
right. But then, so this one's not a vacant lot.
When I moved here, and that was
Okay.
4 blocks from my
Okay.
dad's house.
Okay, anyway, this is a pretty huge project. Actually,
Everything is booming.
okay, and
I'm sorry, Laura, how many units did you say it was? I apologize. I wasn't-
I did I say? The agenda. It's a lot of units.
This is two separate buildings, right?
Yeah, well, it's, it is and it isn't. If you look carefully, it is, and then you see there's this little kind of alley in between, not alley, but
So it's
they're
open
open
space.
in between, so it's being, so it's,
So it looks like they're,
yeah.
Like a U or?
Yeah,
No,
but they're
two
not
no.
contiguous buildings. They're actually
They don't
physically
touch
separate.
each other.
Okay.
They don't touch each other. And the open space is the part that's in between, and it is 222 units
Oops.
plus retail and 8 stories. So that you can see if you on the screen, the lighter, still blue or gray
it's open space.
is open space in between these two buildings, because it's this weird angle. Because the neighborhood goes off in a
Is that a podium, Laura, or is that ground floor?
It's, I don't think it's podium because it's got retail facing Pico.
Yeah, but it could be subterranean parking, right?
Oh, I think it is, yes, I think it is subterranean.
There's
parking.
subterranean parking in that building, in the building, the affordable housing building across the street.
Oh, unit. One parking space. Okay. That was what, we had a big argument with them. They didn't want to do any parking. This is before AB 2.
Yeah.
And when we said, well, what about visitors? They said words out loud at a UNNC meeting, this was years ago. Well, these people won't have any visitors. They don't have friends
Wow.
or relatives who will visit them because they are people with a multiple challenges.
Therefore, they must not have loved ones.
To park, would need to park. Yeah,
There is some 1920s commercial on that site that I presume would be demolished.
yes.
Interesting to know what Survey LA says about them, just in terms of the.
Well, it's
the
also,
streetcar
Right.
commercial
And-
context.
right, and also back to your question. Is this, let me see, I thought I'd seen a Venus somewhere. Oh, it's way too small. Okay, I'm sorry, because I didn't really prepare, apparently. It's right adjacent to or within the Oxford Square.
That I don't
HVOZ.
know.
So I don't know if Oxford Square HVOZ included the commercial
That's
or not. So
That's right.
it's across,
North side of the street.
okay. So we're chattering here. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that if you can't hear us.
No, we can
Um,
hear. So regarding the parking, it's 8 stories, both buildings, with ground floor commercial.
And you
is
want to know
the-
how much parking?
Well, is the parking solely for the commercial?
I don't know, but again, I was asked, is it a podium? So when you look at this, Michael, since you're used to looking at this stuff, does that ring
Yeah, that
repost.
looks like 2 levels of subterranean parking on a ground floor podium. Or it looks to the right there on A 3.1 that it could be 1 level of subterranean and 1 level of ground floor. Or it
Yeah.
could be ground floor parking and then put the building on the floors above the parking, all at ground level. It's hard to tell. You
Well,
see
that
it on
sure
the
looks
left?
like there's some subterranean there. Doesn't that look
Right.
subterranean?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
So, I'll
So,
pull-
and this concern that I have is the same for the Venice Boulevard project. John Arnold is the architect, which is, I believe that one has no parking. But doesn't
Correct.
that have a commercial space on the ground floor?
No, it does not. It's 100% affordable. It's
Okay.
residential.
Okay.
Is
That
this
one,
100%
meaning the one
affordable?
on Venice. No, the one that we looked at before on Venice is 100% affordable. This one, I'm gonna stop this share and go to the application, which will answer some of these questions. Assuming I
A
can.
big project.
It's a
Yeah,
big,
it's 2 huge buildings, and I just hope they have sufficient parking. It's a busy intersection.
yes, it is. It's definitely, well, it's
And
an
I'm assuming
R1.
the parking entrance and exit is on the major thoroughfare.
No, it's on Victoria, on the side street.
I thought they weren't supposed to do that.
No, they're supposed to do that so that they don't interrupt traffic on the major thoroughfares.
Oh, well, that's great for Victoria, isn't it?
Yeah, just saying. So let's. I'm trying to pre-answer some of these questions, like, is there a historic building or not, right?
Well, whether Survey LA flagged it or not, isn't
Right.
the full answer.
So they're gonna have 197 parking spaces. In lieu of 274 required parking spaces, but that's still a lot of parking compared to what we've been seeing lately. 20% of it is low income.
Oh,
Or
so this is
affordable.
mostly market rate
Yeah,
with that's probably just the minimum that required.
exactly.
Mhm.
They're showing a
But it is,
distribution of units.
look, it's 18 ELI. It's actually, and which is extremely low income, and 17 moderate income. So this is really a very mixed housing use, because moderate income is 120% of AMI. So the rest of it, I don't know how, so the rest of it is in theory at market, but I don't know if that's any different.
Distribution of bedrooms, Laura.
I know, I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or if they're even gonna tell me here. It's like, sorry, might have to go back to the other document. Do I have this up on the screen? I should ask.
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't think there's any more information coming here, though. No. Okay, so I'd have to go back to the other one to let you know.
So where's this one on the process, Laura? Where did they stand right now?
This one was submitted a couple months ago. It's well on its way. Meaning I did a dive into the mapping program that they also have to see where new projects are.
Mhm.
So this one may have been submitted as long ago as November, not longer than that ago. So, so you want me to go back to?
I was just curious, 220
No,
units. It would be nice to know if there are any 3 bedrooms or is it just 1 bedrooms and singles or, you know.
No, I understand the question. It's just that, you know, these are big plans, so I don't know that I'm gonna be able to easily find
Sure.
the answer. have an index. These are really big plans. They even have an index alphabetized. Okay, so I'm not sharing the screen up, so I should at least show you guys what I am looking at. Okay, here we go. So you can let me know if you spot your answer. I think we are still on parking here. I'm sorry, this is just. I can give you a lot of answers about parking, but I'm
No,
not.
there it is, unit
Yeah,
type count.
I see it. But now I'm gonna try and slowly scroll. Oh, see what's happening. Doesn't want to let me stop at the right place. Where was it?
Right there right there.
At the bottom. So what I'm seeing is 6 singles, 93 1-bedrooms, and 123 2-bedrooms. The singles
How
are
far-
600 square feet. The 1-bedrooms are 540 to 780, and the
Where are you
2-bedrooms
seeing all
are
that?
810 to 900.
Right.
Okay, where the heck are you seeing all that?
What you have on the bottom,
Center of page bottom, under unit type count.
Okay, you can see something we can't see because I have this black thing on the bottom that won't go away.
Well, it's there, I can assure you.
Okay, so tell us again, because I missed what you were saying.
Okay, so it's singles, no bedrooms, right? 6 of those, 600 square feet each. 93 1-bedrooms from 540 to 780 square feet. And 123 2-bedrooms from 810 to 900 square feet, which gives you a total of 222 units.
Okay, well, I will say a single or studio at 600 square feet
is generous.
is very generous because the
That's
little,
market rate.
yeah, because the little bungalow court apartments, which have 1 bedroom and dining room, has a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, bedroom, are 640 square feet. So that's pretty generous.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a place people might want to live.
So there's 3 ADA parking spots, 66 retail parking, 5 residential ADA parking. The other 3 are retail ADA parking, and 109 residential parking.
Right. Well, and I might add, this is a building where retailers might actually want to be located in, since they
Right.
have park. Unlike some of the buildings we have looked at that have, 4 spaces for the retail.
Or none.
Or none. So, okay. So that's all good.
The apartments are not gonna be cheap.
No, they are not. So anyway, is this one we want to try and get a presentation on, or are we good with it?
Well, I mean, it's 8 stories, right? It's going to start
Yeah.
looking like Wilshire Boulevard.
Yeah.
I still really want to know what the status of the buildings are going to tear down is,
Yes,
because they
okay.
are 20s.
Yeah, they are
commercial.
20s commercial buildings. I agree. And this design bears no relevance to
No.
that. So
Very much not.
now I will point out as well, since you can see the project site now up on the screen, just to the west, you'll see 4 more commercial spaces on the other side of the street. That is definitely a development site. That's the old Capitol Burgers. It's half burned.
There are multiple residential developments on
to the-
Crenshaw North, between Pico and.
Right. Oh, and it's all single family to the north.
All that yellow.
All that yellow.
single Family.
Yes, I'm just saying, this commercial site to the west is a development in waiting. And this takes us farther away from UNNC, because UNNC is again south and east. But Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share.
Well, part of the
Oh.
reason to comment on it, even though it may not be close enough that we would like, is that starts to set a standard for what gets carried over into the UNNC boundaries.
Okay, well.
It's very hard to fight against these kinds of things when, a few blocks away you have 8-story buildings that have been recently approved.
Correct. All right, well, let me reach out to the land use rep and see, can they more officially present? Because it may have changed from what I'm showing you as well, because they may have already met with OPNC, Olympic Park Neighborhood Council, and potentially Mid-City Neighborhood Council, which is, this is where all 3 neighborhood councils come together. So I don't know what the status is, but the land use committee for Mid-City Neighborhood Council is very much an advocacy committee. So, Michael.
Yeah, I just want to raise a question in general. Steve, you brought up an interesting point about the scope creep of that. How do we feel as a committee about the development eastward along Pico? That you could argue is a bit of a distressed commercial district. Are we in favor of upgrading with the types of projects we're seeing now, moving east? What's the general disposition?
Well, I am not sure that this project is like what's happening in that stretch, because I'm seeing some of the older buildings being restored.
Yeah,
Right.
repurposing rather than destroying would be really nice.
Right, well, you're saying
I think
that
it
in
depends
general.
on the type of proposal, right? This is a very specific and enormous proposal, but something that does more repurposing of existing and certainly existing historical buildings would be nice to see. And because the commercial district may be depressed, may be more a factor that has less to do with architecture and more to do with economic support for the area.
Right, but what I'm saying is I'm not 100% sure it is depressed. I am seeing the buildings between on Pico, between Arlington and Crenshaw, one by one being, some of them being restored, because there's some very, very cool Art Deco buildings.
Right. Yeah,
And-
I
and
don't
so-
know.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know.
I'm seeing them being, I'm not seeing them being proposed for demolition. I'm seeing them with gold paint or black paint, the kind of,
We
symbols.
certainly are seeing thriving businesses that are being pushed out, like Papa Christos.
Really?
Yeah, that's a little farther east, but that's also a
Wait, Steve, you think that's a
unique
possibility?
circumstance.
I'm sorry, Michael?
Do you think that's a possibility that we might lose Papa Christos?
Yeah,
they're
he's
gone.
supposed to-
They're
May
gone.
4th.
They've already announced that the rent has been jacked up so high that they can no longer afford to operate there.
When does that happen? I
May.
haven't heard that.
They close
May
in May.
4th.
Oh,
But
Yeah, I'm with you.
again,
I'm with you
we're all with
110%.
you, but it's a unique circumstance where 2 Greek families, were in quasi partnership on that property. So there's the Papa Christos family, which had the long-term land and building lease running the restaurant. And the friends who owned the building, they died. And it seems to be their heirs, in other words, it's multi-generations later.
None of the years interested.
No, they were trying to sell, it's for sale.
But another
But
thought,
that's a unique situation.
so the business, is it relocating or closing? I
He
hadn't heard
alluded
this.
to in the press release, he alluded to that the land somewhere, but it won't be the same. I can't imagine.
That's the best gyro in the city.
Yeah, it's
No,
Yeah.
it's a real blow to the larger community.
Oh,
But anyway, you're right. That corner is poised for redevelopment as well. And in fact, there's a ginormous building being constructed even as we speak, right to the north of Papa Christos. On Normandy.
Right,
And to
but this is the kind of creep that I'm alluding to that Michael wanted to address.
Right. That's a shame.
Another thing that people are concerned about with these 8-story buildings is you're facing Pico, but you also have the people in the neighborhood that you're around that
Sure.
now have no privacy,
Right.
even though you're not servicing them, they're losing everything.
I agree 5,000,000%, which is why it's critical to try to have these buildings designed so they step down into the community. They push the highest part of those buildings as close as possible to the to Pico or Venice, and then scale down to the community, which is something that the Venice Boulevard building doesn't do, and that this building doesn't do either.
A lot of them are putting what is it, Sundex on the top, so therefore rooftop tent, and they're actually entertaining at night.
Right.
Or you got a party going on over your head.
Yep.
Thank you. That's my neighbor. They said it's a 3-story, but it's a 40 feet tall building. In my single story bungalow block. And my question is, I live not too far from Crenshaw and Jefferson, right? And I look at this construction going, and the streets are really clumsy. Streets are breaking, you know? So how do they support all these heavy buildings? That's what my concern whenever I drive by, there's a tall building standing up, or beside they look kind of plain and ugly to me. The streets are so, weak and aging. How do they support, especially now all the earthquakes are predicted, you know, big ones are coming. I read it in the paper. They're expecting a huge one sometime. And then they keep building up these tall ones, especially like my residential area, right in the middle of the little street and crumbling street. And the city does not fix it. My sidewalks are buckling, and they keep permitting this. And I'm so worried about safety beside the privacy invasion completely gone. 4 stories, but they call it 3 stories, and then the small one in the back, which is 2-story high, and no parking allowed, right? There's no parking. So we don't have parking. We don't have the space to hide something happens. All these tall buildings on Crenshaw, even if it's a major street, if one breaks down, where would they go? They're so closely together next to, you know. So this is not safe for LA. It might be possible some other place when there's no earthquake, but here we have to listen to the history why buildings are so low, you know. And they keep coming out with these ideas that does not belong here, safety-wise. Don't even mention the beauty. They got no character on Crenshaw right now. All the huge, tall apartment buildings are up and down, south of Jefferson. It's like they're like I know they are very creative people, but here they don't seem to give a damn. It's all looking like a matchbox stacked up. So then you have to look at the design too, you know. You have to create the uniform, some kind of character for the city. Either maintain what was there before and improve on it, not just come up with the arbitrary design, whatever is quickest. That's what they're always proposing in my area, at least, in my opinion. They don't seem to have any kind of historical value. When you look at this different big major streets, they have a certain look, right? LA had a certain look from the past. Now they don't seem to have anything. Everything umbo jumbo, just thrown into
Right.
it.
Well, I think to everyone's point, if you drive down Adams between Crenshaw and La Cienega, the new construction is probably the designs that we're going to be seeing
Big white buildings.
in these other new buildings, pretty much. You know, because they're not all the same, but I think if you take it globally on Adams, the different designs, but put them together, you're gonna see those designs on Crenshaw and maybe on Pico, maybe on Venice, but certainly on Crenshaw.
They're not all the same, but they're very similar.
Well, I mean, there's maybe 5 or 6 different styles is what I'm saying, but there's not 37 different styles. They're not.
Yeah, they have no, I mean, interesting look, right? I mean, so that was my opinion. I mean, when I
Okay.
looked at, yeah, nothing to look
But
at.
are the buildings on Crenshaw even occupied? They all
Well,
look
they're-
empty.
The new ones?
Uh-huh.
No, they're not. They're
They've been
for rent.
empty all this time, but
Well, it's
The office buildings,
the office
it's been a
building.
couple of years now.
No, a year.
No,
they've been under construction for.
Yes, but they
7 or
have-
8 years.
No, because we saw all of them on Zoom. So
They were under construction before the pandemic started.
So Laura, are Shaw's buildings clear for occupancy? Do you know?
are whose? Shoals?
Yeah, the ones he built on.
Yeah, the two, I think they are, I haven't looked. I think they do have certificates of occupancy, but I don't think they're working too hard right this sec, because I think they're trying to get the one on the west side also finished.
The old church site where the residences. built?
Correct,
I see.
because that's another mega structure, right, with
Yeah.
lots and lots and lots of units. And I think that makes it, will make it easier to rent these other buildings when the residential is finished.
Makes sense.
Because there'll be more residents. So I think they're just
Carrying costs.
slow walking it to get good tenants. And I hope that's what they're doing, because I mean, I think they want good tenants.
hopefully they have decent parking because,
They have a parking structure.
okay, because the neighbors are gonna scream.
They have a
There's nowhere to
standalone
go.
parking structure.
Okay, that's good. That's great. That's
So-
unusual.
Okay. Is that a hand? It is.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm gonna have to leave shortly and I don't want
All
to
right.
stop this important discussion, but if there's something that we need to discuss about Mills Act
Yeah,
or the liquor store, if we could go to that and then come back to this.
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like this discussion is an hour already, so we probably should move on to the next item. And so the next item was just sort of an update about letters. So Steve has drafted the UNNC, let's back up a second. So the UNNC governing board did indeed authorize us to kind of privately, for lack of a better word, finish drafting the several land use letters, one on the Century Liquor, one on Mills Act, and one on 3812 West Adams. And have our executive committee, just approve them via email. So Steve has done the Century Liquor letter. He did ask me if I have finished the Mills Act letter, and I have not, but I will have to have, because that has an actual other deadline, which would be Monday morning, and of approved letter. And I don't know if anyone has even tackled the Adams Boulevard. I don't know if Teresa's doing that or not. So if she's not, I will. But I don't know if we need to discuss your letter. I thought it was good, Steve. Picked up what we did at the governing board and here.
As long as there's nothing else that needs to be done at this point, I'm fine. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to have the letterhead and Paula's signature inserted and approved by executive, but I think it was fine. I mean, if you didn't put, I don't think you put the United Neighborhoods of the Historic Arlington Heights. I don't think you put the whole long name anywhere. We do that.
Okay. I didn't have a template to work from.
Yeah, well, we do that, but otherwise, and so I'll talk to you offline on that because I don't know how to get rid of the tracking changes.
I'll send it to you without it.
Thank you so much. Okay. So that's the letter thing. And then is there any other follow-up to previous cases, ENS and old business? I mean, the number of cases or projects being submitted has actually slowed down. You know, so that's what I was looking at. Because I thought, what have I missed? But I haven't. It's actually slowed down. Which is good because we're still playing cleanup on everything else. Okay. Anything else?
Is it because people are kind of giving up about preventing this big development? Out of
No. I mean, the number of cases submitted by developers has
Oh.
slowed down.
Oh, okay. So you know what? Is there?
It may be because of the uncertainty with pricing
Mm,
in the marketplace because of, for all of the reasons that we can discuss some of, like the fires, construction materials have gone up and will be affected tremendously by tariffs. If that sticks, because a lot of the wood used in construction here is from Canada.
mm.
I mean, if you do stuff in your own house and you need redwood, that's from Oregon. But if you're doing construction, that wood's from Canada. And for example, so I think that's probably the uncertainty in the
Since
marketplace.
people can't keep friends.
So do you think people like my neighbor it was already allowed, right? Permit.
Oh,
passed.
yes, nothing has changed. And when I say projects submitted, I mean discretionary projects that we would be told about, not by right projects, which we're not told about. So I think the project on your block was not discretionary. That's the problem. It was never discretionary. They had the right to build it.
Yeah, so like when they have a right to build, even if they disturb everybody in the block, I mean, and then
Yep.
I found out today they have like lawsuit cases against the developers. I mean, somebody said, I mean, the city kind of checked their background and they have 2 lots already. They are purchased. One is already demolished. It's an empty lot with the fence up, and mine is next. I mean, what do they do for the people? They already displaced so many people because after they bought these places, all the people who were renting or sharing the house moved out, right, to somewhere. And it's not really good for the neighborhood already, suffering from lack of housing. Meanwhile, one lot was sitting there empty for like 2 years, I think. I mean, it seems like a forever, fenced up. Nobody could live there, So it's not doing any benefit for the community. And for the housing shortage, it's not really helping us. We don't know when they're going to build up, but my next door is going to be demolished, right? I mean, just livable houses. They just come and grabbing, and then they're just the street is not very strong. That's what I felt today. My picture just fell down because just like a cars passing by, either airplane going by, shaking up the house, it just fell down. And I was sitting here, not even an earthquake. So, I mean, things like that, they have to worry about it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, the problem is that, again, these projects are by right. And especially a committee like this, where we're engaged with giving advice on projects, we have no role. And there's no way, there's nothing discretionary about building and safety giving these permits. So, and I know you're coming here and hoping to get really
Right. Somehow,
advice and help, but
yeah.
I just don't know what we can do because we're all sort of in that boat on our respective blocks, and we can only do what we can do. I mean, behind my house, so next street over, a house was demolished and the big project came up. The biggest impact is, I believe, the people who had lived in the house had a lot of cats, and now they're at my house looking for food. So, I don't mean to be trite, because it's going to be a real problem for me, but there was nothing anyone could do about the demolition and the construction on a block that had the right zone, and the project met the zoning perfectly. It's not historic. They tore down not great shape, tore down a historic house. You know, I don't know what to say. Steve?
Well, there's only one, in a by right situation, there's really only one thing that can be done, which is the community has to come together in that neighborhood and fight the project. And that would include fighting it in terms of trying to get the council member on your side. I mean, it would really take a political coalition of the neighborhood coming together very strongly to object to this. There's nothing that this committee can do for a by right project, I think,
it's
is the bottom
also-
line.
Right, and the zoning is R3, and I think your block is R3 as well, right?
Right. I mean,
What's really built there is single family, but somehow the zoning is R3. And the zoning, not on my block, but on the block behind me is R3. We actually did that more on purpose in my neighborhood's case, because there had to be R3 zoning somewhere. We couldn't be totally NIMBY. I just didn't imagine, you know, in 40 years of no such construction, I didn't imagine there would suddenly be so much. But it's by right.
Right.
And I said it earlier tonight, I'm gonna say it again. I said it yesterday to somebody else. The last couple of years, I have learned to recite the Serenity Prayer. You know, God grant me the courage to change the things I can, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so
Yeah,
cannot change the R3 zoning because there's now state law on that too. You
But
know, city cannot.
there is
use
something that
ground
can
zone.
be done. There is something that can be done, and it's up to the community to do it that's impacted by it. The community that's directly impacted would have to start organizing and make a political effort here with the council member, with the state assembly person. These are the kinds of things that should have been done before everything got torn down. But that's the avenue, right? Is to use the political leverage the community can create.
Right, but again, right now, this current round, right now, under state law and the housing element requirements, you cannot downzone. The city just can't do it. So, okay. Depressing end to our meeting. But I'm gonna say that the meeting should be adjourned now. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And our next meeting is on May 7th.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
after the next governing board meeting. So we will not have, as far as I know, any cases at governing board. Okay, thank you and good night.